And welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reviewing the next episode of Doctor Who Series 1, and that is entitled Dot and Bubble. I mean, can you really call this episode an episode of Doctor Who? It's very Doctor Light and very, very strange in the sense that it's more of a sort of Black Mirror, as pretty best described across the internet. Of course it's Doctor Who, it's a very silly thing to say, but then when I look back on these episodes that we've had recently, obviously these two, they put the first production block when Ncuti was practically unavailable. But just the episodes before that, 3 episodes before, I felt like we've not had a big action story. And for me, they're the ones that I adore. I'm not saying that we need to bring back the Cybermen or the Daleks or anything. It looks like we're going to be getting a big action two-parter towards the end of the series. But I am interested in the idea of giving this Doctor a really big threat. And everything so far has been very contained, very character focused. I'd love to see him running down some corridors. This episode does have a really fun concept, the idea that everyone in Fine Time is so locked into their screen, so locked into their bubbles, that they simply cannot see the invasion that's happening around them. That's quite a nice idea, although I do think that it's been done to death. About 10 years ago, this would have probably been a fascinating story or something new. But nowadays, episodes that say things like, phones are bad, you don't want to be using them, everyone's so addicted to their screens nowadays, especially using a sort of Gen X angle to it as well and saying it's the younger generations, when I know full well that when you walk down the street, it's not just the teenagers or the people 17 and 27, as they say in the episode, they're all addicted to their phones. Everyone is. It's an extremely relevant idea. I just feel like it's so overplayed nowadays that I kind of understood everything it could possibly tell me before the episode actually started. The trouble is, even though it's relevant, it's sort of dull and it leads to a very stereotyped main character. And the trouble is, of course, this main character needs to carry your entirety of your plot because Ncuti and Millie aren't really in this story. I do love Ncuti in this episode. He has lots of technical babble, lots of very cool moments, and sort of, saying, "You've blocked me, but I just used the Sonic and I've got back in." And his appearances in the episodes were nice little treats, and I really enjoyed them. And of course, at the end, his big sort of speech, I guess, his dramatic reaction to the twist ending, I really enjoyed. But as I say about this sort of stereotypical character, this sort of Gen Z, Gen X character, the trouble is, when we see that final shot of her looking at the Doctor, I'm thinking, is that a look of maybe this Doctor's correct? Maybe we shouldn't all be staring at our bubbles? Or is it a case of I'm so dependent on what other people think of me and what the world is within my bubble that I'm too afraid to leave it? And the Doctor is unable to break me out of that cycle. But when I look at it, I just go, I'm not actually seeing a character, I'm seeing a stereotype, a rather bad version of a character that has very little to really show other than their points of being like, oh no, I need my phone. I do particularly enjoy the twist that we get towards the end about Lindy Pepper Bean actually being a bad person. And, you start off thinking this girl's misguided and it's the fault of her surroundings and stuff like that. And then as we go through the episode, you realize that, do you know what? Some people are bad without the technology. She doesn't have the heart. And when that fella dies, I've forgotten his name, something September, Ricky September, when he dies and she sort of saves her own skin, I go, oh, there's a really nice idea here that it's actually not to do with the phones and that some people are just bad. Some people just do awful things. And the fact that the Doctor would always try and save someone with the best personality traits, always save the good in people, for that not to work and for it to be an awful person that they're trying to save or contact, I love that idea. And then, of course, the actual ending itself, this twist ending, this final scene, and I think, oh yeah, this is really good. This is well written. This is an interesting idea to explore, but of course we don't explore it because it's the end of the episode. And then after the Doctor does his little speech, screams and spits everywhere. And Ruby, poor Millie Gibson here, not having a lot to deliver, but doing a beautiful job at conveying this sort of upset on behalf of the Doctor. I'd love to know what the Doctor did next. Did the Doctor decide that his hero complex, his ability to save, meant that he must save them anyway, whether they liked it or not? And then, is it better for him morally to leave them, or will he be able to live with himself in the fact that he wasn't able to? There's lots playing on there. They just seem to drop at the end of the episode while talking about, previously having this very sort of bright colours and, this very silly idea of, oh, it's the rich kids and the youths and all this sort of stuff that are the issue, and that they're staring at their phones, and they drop something as big as that, and they just seem to just let it linger at the end of the episode, without really exploring it, in my opinion. I think there's particularly a lot more that could be done about the Doctor's moral stance on this situation that just isn't explored, and I think that's a real shame. I do wonder how I'm going to feel about rewatching this episode when I know that our main character is not very particularly likable, and are we just plodding through the story because Shooty's not available? I don't know about that, and I don't know whether people are going to look back on this episode and think, yeah, that was a really, really good one. When you look at the series as a whole, that's going to be interesting to see. But obviously, we can't tell that yet. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure you give a like and subscribe. If you're new, next week we have Rogue, and I'm really looking forward to Rogue. I think Rogue is the one of the big ones for me of how I'm going to feel. And then we have our 2-part finale, which I'm going to skip a week and do the final 2 parts together. So technically, you've only got 2 reviews left of this series. It's actually quite scary how quickly we're going through this series now. But until next time, all the best. Goodbye.